Hello, here to talk to you about language learning again today. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you my top 5 quick tips because, as I've said in an earlier video on this channel, my biggest goal on this channel is to share with you everything that I've learned in the course of about 20 years or so, searching for the best and most effective ways to learn a foreign language to help you guarantee your success with your target language, whatever your goals may be. And in order to achieve this, I'm going to make a long-ish series where I really share with you every little detail that I've learned along the way. But I appreciate the fact that some of you might be just interested in quick tips. Maybe you don't have time or interest in a long series. So I thought I would make a video on my quick tips. And I've really put a lot of thought into this. I thought about it for a long time. If I only had a couple minutes, not some days or hours to talk to someone, what would be my top 5 language learning tips? And this is what I came up with. So without further ado, here are my top 5 language learning tips. Number 1, listen, listen, listen. And I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, I don't like listening. I don't like listening. Because I've literally had hundreds of students throughout the years, and I think every single one of them has told me these things. I don't like listening. I'm not good at listening. I'm a visual learner, and therefore I don't want to do listening. So I know where you're coming from, but let me just tell you outright, that's not true. That's not true. It's not that you are bad at listening. Listening is just harder. It's inherently more difficult. Think about it. When you read, the words are there on the page. They're not going anywhere. You can take your time. You can read over a sentence again. You can think about what a word means. But when you listen, the words literally fly past you at the speed of sound. And if you missed something, it's gone. And if you needed a second to think about what something means, then that was also too bad, because now the next words are coming and you've missed those, what you were thinking about, what you just heard a second ago. Of course it's more difficult. It's more difficult for me. Go talk to any successful language learners. They'll tell you, of course listening is more difficult. There's maybe a few rare exceptions, but listening is more difficult for everybody. But let me tell you, if you can introduce more listening practice into your language learning daily regimen, you are really going to accelerate your learning. Listening stimulates our brain in a way that reading just can't. I don't know why. It's just the way it is. And for many years, I really thought this too. I thought, I just like reading more. But when I started including more listening into my language learning practices, it was incredible. I noticed an immediate improvement. I could see how much more quickly and effectively I was retaining everything that I learned. So please, if you get one thing, this is my number one top tip. Number one tip here. Listen more. Listening is really going to help you. And I know you got to be kind to yourself because it'll be hard. Don't tell yourself that you're bad at it. It's just more hard. So it takes more time, it takes more practice, and it takes more patience, because it can be one of the most difficult things is finding listening materials to practice with that work for you and your level. So just be patient and listen a lot, and I guarantee it's going to help your learning go better. Tip number 2. Tip number 2 is read aloud. And again, maybe you're thinking now, listen, read aloud, what are these lame tips you're giving me? Yes, it's true. All the best language learning methods are not fancy. They're boring. They're mundane. There's no secret methods. All the good methods are known, but they really work. And when I say read out loud, I don't mean just move your lips and make some noise while you take your eyes across the page. What I mean is you should read out loud until you can read the passage you're working with fluently, and with feeling. Because normally what happens when I sit down a student and I kind of want to see what level they're at, I say just pick a passage, one that you've read before, one you're comfortable with, and just read it out loud for me, please. And this is usually how it goes. They take out the book and they go, John went to the park. And that's how they read. Now, I'm not trying to pick on anyone. What I'm saying is, if this is how you read when you read your passage aloud, it means that you have not mastered this passage. You need to keep practicing with this passage until you can read it fluently, and with feeling. Now, when you read something, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to really increase your skills. Like I said, if you're just going to read like that in a monotone voice, I don't know if it has any more value than just reading silently. When I read, like I said, I read something again and again until I can read it like a native speaker would without getting caught stumbling, without getting stuck on any certain word or pronunciation. I read it with feeling, because if you can read it with feeling, it means that you really understand what's written there. Because many people read out loud, but it's as if their mouth is making noise, but the brain is shut off and they don't actually understand what's being written on the page. So you need to read, like I said, it needs to be fluid. It doesn't need to be fast. You don't need to be reading like, John went to the park, there he saw Mary, he asked Mary. You don't need to read fast, but it should be fluid. It should be fluid. You can read slow and fluidly. John went to the park. There he saw Mary. He looked into Mary's eyes and he said, now, that's with feeling. That's fluid. It's not fast, but it's fluid. And it's not about winning some kind of Oscar with your acting talents as you're reading this reading passage. That's not the point. It's just when you can really read it with feeling and read it fluidly, then it shows that you have a better mastery of the passage. And like I said, think of it as a rehearsal. If you can't read the word fluidly, then what are the chances that when you are conversing with someone, that you are going to get it out of your mouth fluidly? No, it's just a chance to practice that pronunciation and so on and so forth. So read out loud, read the same passage again and again. This is what I do. I would literally read the same sentence until I can say it fluidly, fluently, and with feeling. That's tip number 2. Tip number 3. Tip number 3 is listen and repeat. I know it's another boring tip. I remember when I sat in my first day of French class and the teacher said, everybody listen and repeat after me. And I thought, oh Jesus, I'm never going to learn a language like this. But it really works. And when I started doing this, the biggest thing I was surprised about was how hard it is. Because I thought this would be easy. You just listen to a sentence, then you pause it, and then you try to repeat after. That's how hard could that be? It's a lot harder than you would think. And the fact that it is hard means that there's a skill gap there. And you can fill it really easily just by practicing. The most difficult thing you have to get over is it's kind of like awkward and embarrassing maybe to do. But if you can maybe do it by yourself in a quiet room, or I literally go do it when I'm on a walk or something. Like people maybe think I'm crazy or maybe think I'm on the phone or something, but listen and repeat. When I started doing this, it really, I just progressed so much more quickly. You get the words in your mouth. If the words are in your mouth, they go into your brain. You listen to your own voice saying. You really have to, train your little short-term memory to get these words in your head. And it's such an effective exercise. Some people call it shadowing, maybe a more sexy or exciting term for the same thing. But listen and repeat. There's many language learning resources that you can find where they are designed to do listen and repeat. But you can do it with anything, even a TV show or on YouTube. Just pause and try to say the sentence you just heard. It's a super effective tool that I recommend to everybody. Tip number 4, talk to yourself. This is something, again, I do walking around the street and maybe people think I'm crazy, but I think this is the huge difference which has set me aside from a lot of my peers who are also language learning enthusiasts, is I constantly talk to myself out loud. I imagine conversations. Now, because if I just say, oh, when you're learning a language, talk to yourself, you might be like, I don't know how to, this is what people usually tell me. I don't know how to do that. What should I talk about? How should I know what to talk about? I don't even know this language. Yes. So what you should do is, of course, everyone has a starting point that may be different depending on your level, but think about what kind of interactions do you want to have in your language. Do you want to meet some new people? Imagine how that conversation will go. Think, okay, I want to meet a new person. Maybe I see someone at a restaurant who I think is a target speaker of my language, and I want to go make friends with them. What will I say to them? And then act out that conversation to yourself, playing both sides. Now, you might think, yeah, but I don't know how to say the stuff that I want to say. Perfect. You don't know how to say what you want to say? This is a good opportunity to go learn it. Go look it up. Go ask a native speaker, how do I say this? What would I say to someone if I want to ask their name, if I am meeting a new person? Or how can I say, well, think about what you really want to say and then go look it up. This is going to make your learning so much more effective when it's proactive. In other words, it's coming from you. You are trying to learn what really you're interested in, what language you want to use. It'll stick in your head much more than if you just learn whatever random sentences the author has decided, the author of your textbook has decided you should learn. So talking to yourself. And you can imagine a conversation where you're acting out both parts, or you can also imagine maybe you're giving a presentation, or you're telling people about your hobby or one of your interests, or a story, an anecdote from your past. It can be anything, but talking to yourself will really help improve your fluency and get your mind get your mind in the place where the words of your target language really come to you. Because when we speak our target languages, often we think of a word in our native language and we're like, crap, do I know how to say that? I don't know how to say that in my target language. Do I know how to? No, I don't know. And so then you run into a roadblock because you're like, there's a word I want to say, but I can only think of it in my native language and not my target language. By speaking to yourself, it kind of gets you into this habit so that the words that come to you first, the words that you really want to use in your target language, are there somewhere in your brain because you've been using them. And practicing with yourself is great because then, you can practice the same sentence again and again. You don't have to be embarrassed about making mistakes in front of somebody. I remember when I was learning French, I literally practiced the conversation that I would have if I wanted to make a friend who I thought, this person's a French speaker. What will I say to them? And how will our conversation go? And I rehearsed this dozens and dozens of times to myself. And then it just so happened I walked into a classroom one day and I noticed there was someone that, that guy speaks French. He's a French speaker. And then I had the real conversation with him, the real life conversation with him, and it went surprisingly almost just like the way I had rehearsed it in my mind. So I was totally confident and I could speak totally fluently, even though it was really the first time that I spoke with a native French speaker. So that was tip number 4. Talk to yourself out loud. Tip number 5, and the final tip for today is write. Now when I say write, people often think it means like write a journal or write what you did today. And what I've found is that when people try to do this, they usually can't continue for very long because it's hard and it's boring and whatever. But when I say write, I just mean write anything. Like write your target language, just keep a notebook which is dedicated only to your studying of that target language. And just write your target language in the notebook. Like if you see a sentence you think is interesting, just copy it. If you're doing some exercises from your textbook, just copy them down. If there's an interesting passage, just copy it word for word. Or if you want to write a journal, then write that. Or, whatever it is, just write and write and write. And I don't think this is a critical part of the learning process. This is why this is tip number 5, because even if you didn't do any writing, which many people don't, they can still learn a language effectively. But why do I like writing is because when you write, first of all, it brings your attention to the words more, because we often kind of know a word in our target language, but then we realize like if we actually have to say it or write it, that we don't remember exactly how to say it or exactly how to spell it. So if you get in that habit of writing it, if you're writing it, you really have to know all of the letters or characters or whatever to write that word. So it brings our attention to the language more. And the other reason I like to write a lot is because then I can see, it's kind of like, it shows my progress in the language. Because if I've written and I've filled up 10 pages, then I look 10 pages ago, I can go, oh, that's what I was doing 10 pages ago. I've gotten so much better since then. And also I can see this, like, if I fill up a whole notebook that's full of my target language, and be like, look how much I studied. It really is a motivating thing for me. So just write anything. Like what I would write, I copy passages from my textbooks, do exercises. If there's a blog post, some interesting paragraphs or sentences I want to write down, new words, anything. I just keep a notebook where I just write in the target language, just write anything. And it's something I've always done and something that I really think helps keep me my momentum, my motivation. Again, like I said, I don't think it's a critical part of the learning process. So if you think, if you have arthritis or you hate writing or you think it's a stupid idea, then you could definitely toss this one. But it's just something that I've always found helps me. So those are my top 5 quick tips. Not so quick, 15 and a half minutes, but my 5 quick tips to learn languages effectively. I hope those help you on your language learning adventures, and I will see you again next time. Ciao.